Hello, I'm Denise Scaloni. Welcome to today's episode of Empowering You. I'm really excited about my guest today. My guest is MJ Calloway. MJ is the author of 11 books, and her newest book, Bounce Up, Outpower Adversity, Boost Resilience, Rebound Higher, has been endorsed by the CEO of the Healthy Workforce Institute. MJ is going to have some excellent advice to give you to help you not bounce back, but bounce up. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. My guest today is MJ Calloway, author of 11 books, and her Bounce Up, Outpower Adversity, Boost Resilience, Rebound Higher book has been endorsed by the CEO of the Healthy Workforce Institute. She's a domestic abuse survivor, a two-time cancer survivor, and a corporate trainer known for shifting employee attitudes and converting tactics into results that increase productivity and profits. Before MJ started her own company, she was the only female sales executive in a male-dominated industry, and she sold 3 times her annual quota. A couple of fun facts about MJ, which I did not even know. She's zip-lined over gators in Alabama, biked down a volcano in Hawaii, and played tug-of-war with a baby black bear in Michigan. So maybe we can have her tell a little bit about those stories. But I am so excited. Thank you so much, MJ, for being here.
I'm delighted to be here, Denise. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Oh, it's been a while. I wanted to have you on. It just never worked out. So I'm really happy that you could be here today.
Me too.
So you've authored 11 books. That's incredible. That's a lot of books.
I didn't even realize it was 11 books until a colleague of mine actually created a image for me with all of the books. 2 of them she didn't have. And I was like, oh my goodness, in my head, I had 9 books tallied. And I was like, I forgot about 2 of them.
Wow. So your latest book, which is great. Let me hold it right here so everybody can see it. Bounce Up, Outpower Adversity, Boost Resilience, Rebound Higher. So you say bounce up. What is bounce up and not bounce back? Because a lot of people might think, let me bounce back, not bounce up.
And so many people use bounce back.
Right.
And there is such a difference. I mean, so here's an analogy if I could share with the viewers. Does that work?
Yes, absolutely.
So think about bounce back. So imagine those inflatable punching bags. You might have had one as a kid, or maybe you know someone who had it. It had sand in the bottom. It was inflatable. You punched it and it just bounced right back to where you were.
Yes.
That's bounce back. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't grow. It doesn't learn anything from whatever adversity, whatever punch in the gut it received. Now think about a basketball player. So imagine, Denise, you're the basketball player on the court.
Yes.
And you go up for the rebound and you grab that rebound and you bring it down. Now you have control of the ball. You have control of the next play. You have control of possibly the game, depending upon where your team stands. That's bounce up. You bounced up higher than anyone else. And when we think about it, do we want to bounce back to where we were when adversity hit?
No.
That means we wouldn't have learned anything. When we bounce up, it means we did learn something. We grew from it. We became better. We became stronger. And that's why I say bounce up. That's what the whole book is about not only my journey of bouncing up, but there's 8 other people that I feature in the book, and some others. They're featured in a whole chapter, but they all bounced up after adversity.
And that's true. Most people say bounce back. Oh, I had this and I bounced back. But you're right. Bounce up it's a completely different visual.
Definitely. And you had mentioned in the intro, I'm a two-time cancer survivor. Well, that happened in fall of 2016. Well, I will tell you, there isn't any way I want to go back to
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah.
I don't want to bounce back to that time. That means through that entire journey, I didn't learn anything. I didn't become healthier at eating. I didn't have a healthier lifestyle from it. So definitely think about bounce up.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You're always so positive. I've known you for years and you're always this way, so positive, full of energy. How do you stay so positive? It's so hard sometimes, especially when we're in the middle of this pandemic still. I think it's
Right.
ever by now. We're still here. How do you keep these negative emotions from sneaking up on you? And how do you stay so positive?
And there's a few things here. So the first is I would have to say, if I would say, why me? If
Right.
whenever I was either a domestic abuse survivor or two-time cancer survivor, whenever those hit, and I'm not going to downplay them because they were not great times in my life. But if I would have said, why me? I would have been reactive. I
Right.
would have also had to say, why me for all the good things that had happened in my life, all the blessings that I have received over the years. So that puts it into perspective. The other technique I like to use is, or it's more of an example or an analogy, is when we are stuck, when adversity hits, we have a choice. We
Right.
can either stay stuck in adversity or
Yes.
we can figure out how to get out of it.
Right.
So think about if you were stuck, Denise,
Mhm.
and think about being stuck as being stuck in quicksand,
Mhm.
and you are there. And instead of trying to figure out how to get out, you're saying, why me? Why did this happen to me? I can't believe this happened to me.
Right.
What's the quicksand going to do to
Oh,
you?
it's just going to eat me up. I'm just going to go all the way down. Right.
Exactly. And that's what negative thoughts do. They just pull us down further and further into negativity. Now, going back to quicksand, when you're in quicksand, what's the first thing you think of?
Get out.
How to get out.
Get out. Right.
Right. So we become proactive. When we stay stuck, we're reactive. When we start thinking about how to get out, we become proactive. We start improvising because the first thing you're doing is looking around. What can I use? What do I have? How can I get out of here? So now you're improvising and you're being proactive. So when we flip that, when we think about being proactive, when we flip the switch to think about what can I do right now? How can I improvise? We now get away from that. And that keeps us, first, it keeps us engaged.
Yeah.
It keeps us focused on a solution rather than on the problem. So that's one of my techniques that I use. And I,
That's great. I just love the imagery, like the quicksand and
yes.
the punching bag or punching whatever they are that you punch and it comes back up. I mean, that's awesome. What made you decide to write this book, MJ?
I knew it up until probably I was a year out of treatment that I knew I had to share the journey. One, because I could help so many more people.
Mhm.
Two, because people do ask, how do you get through it? And I
Right.
knew that I had techniques that I could share. What's crazy, Denise, is I didn't share what I was going through until after the fact.
Oh, okay.
And I worked the whole entire time. And when I say that I worked the whole entire time, what's crazy is when I went through treatment and I call chemo magic wand rather than chemo because it's just an easier term. It was easier. That's what I do. I
Mhm.
flip it whenever
Right.
there's a negativity. And I can explain that in a
Yeah.
second.
Yeah. I want you to explain that too when you're done.
I was at one of my clients and the CEO of the company, I was standing at the copier. I was making copies for her sales team. And she said to me, MJ, oh my goodness, you look like a different person. And I turned around, I looked at her, I turned back to the copier, and I'm chuckling because at this time I had on what I called my new hair because it was a wig. I had lost my hair during the journey. And I had lost because the magic wand was so intense that it kept me down for 10 days. So I had lost quite a bit of weight. I'm not that big to begin with, and then,
Right.
lose some more. So it really made a difference. And I'm just chuckling at this copier thinking, oh, if you only knew. And then she was one of the first ones that I did share it with afterwards. But I knew that I could help others because whenever I was diagnosed, I was given a 20% chance of surviving if chemo didn't work. And a chemo had a 50% chance of working. And I knew that my mindset and my actions had a lot to do with it. And whatever I could share with others could maybe make a difference in their life too. And that is the reason I felt compelled to write that book.
That's awesome, MJ. And looking through the book, it's not just a book to read. You can make lists in here. You have goals in here. There's all types of things that you have in here to do.
There's over 164 tips,
Right.
techniques, and tools that you can implement. And everything is doable. And it's in bite-sized chunks because it's easily digestible.
Right. And what really struck me when I was looking through here is you have lists 2 or 3 accomplishments. Sometimes we don't think of the good things.
Right. Exactly.
We think of the, oh, I didn't get this done, or oh, this didn't work. We don't see ourselves as others see us.
Exactly.
People see us like, oh my gosh, you're doing an amazing job, but we don't see that. We think, well, I didn't do this, right? The book isn't finished yet, or this. So I really like how you turn, like you said, flip. Talk about flipping again.
I will.
The negatives.
I call it the flip it technique. So take a sheet of paper, and then down the middle of the sheet of paper, just draw a line. On the left side at the top, write the word negative. On the right side at the top, write the word positive. Now take a negative thought and put it in the left side. And I'll use chemo. Put that in the left side. So how can I flip it into something positive?
Right.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to flip that was whenever I had mentioned the word chemo to my kids, I could see just the wind taken out of their sails, their whole body language change. Because chemo has such a negative connotation.
Right.
Now you can take any negative thought you have and put it in that negative column and then flip it. So I flipped it to magic wand because when we think about magic wand, it's lighthearted, it's humorous.
You smile, right?
You smile. And for me, I thought, okay, that magic wand was making that tumor disappear. And every time I went into, my magic wand session, I thought about that. So it was uplifting for me. And it was also uplifting for those surrounding me. So after you flip it to a positive, you write it down and then you say it out loud 3 times.
Why 3 times, MJ?
Because now you have cemented that in your brain. Now, if it's something that you have a negative thought you've said over and over again, continue to say it until that's the first thought you have.
Okay.
Usually 3 times works because first you did write it down. So it's actually 5 times you have that positive thought. Because 1, you flipped it. 2, you did write it down. And then you have the 3 times you said it out loud. So that's 5 times you've reinforced that positive thought in your head. And that's why flip it works.
And can you flip anything, any negative thought?
Yes. I flip the entire journey. So flip the entire journey. So anytime I do have a negative thought, that's the first thing I do. And it allows us to empower ourselves. Because when we think about this, and you're all about empowering, Denise,
Yes.
your whole TV show, your program is about empowering
Right.
others. When we have negative thoughts, it takes the power away. We give power to that negative thought.
Yeah.
When we flip it, we've taken back that power. When we produce those positive thoughts, those statements, we now have empowered ourselves. We
Okay.
also empowered those around us. Whenever I flipped it to Magic Wand, I empowered my family because now they thought of it, with a smile on their face
Right.
rather than a frown.
Right. And that's true because you hear the word chemo, the first thing you think is, oh, you don't know what to say and just, oh, right. But you
Exactly.
say magic wand, and people start smiling. You start thinking of Disney princesses and everything.
You do. And I did the same thing with radiation. So I had almost 15 months of Magic Wand, followed by 30 sessions of what I call buzz. Instead of radiation, I flipped it to buzz. Because when you think about buzz, you think about Buzz Lightyear, and it makes you happy.
Right. Right.
And think about it, there's so much negativity out there. And after the past year with the pandemic and
Yes.
everything that has happened, with politics and
Right.
everything else in our world, there's enough negativity out there. Why not include or empower ourselves to have words that make us happy?
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. MJ, let me ask you, there may be someone watching this show and they're a negative person. And it's hard to just completely change your outlook and your personality like that overnight. What steps can someone take today or tomorrow to start thinking this way and flipping it and having this positive attitude? What's some small steps people can take?
There's actually a few. So if it's
Okay.
okay if I share.
Absolutely.
So the first one would be, what is the one negative thought that is a repeater?
Okay.
It's a repeater in the head. Tackle that one first and flip it. Then after you flip it, here's a step 2 to flip it. Now this is a two-parter.
Okay.
So say, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. When we think about I'm excited, we now take and we have engaged those happy hormones and
Right.
those happy chemicals, and those release happy emotions. But there's a second part to this. I'm excited about, and then come up with something that he or she is excited about, you're excited about. So think about a goal that you would like to achieve, or
Mhm.
think about, a trip that you are taking.
Right. Right.
I'm excited about going on vacation. I'm
Yes.
excited about crossing the finish line. So again, that's a reinforcement. You've empowered yourself to see a vision ahead. You've engaged that brain. But the key to that is not only have we engaged our brain, but whatever happens up here in our mindset, it impacts our body language. So now we have included positive body language. Our body feels more energized so that we can tackle what we want to achieve. So that's a second step. Now, I do have a third step, and this is where you can bring in outside help. Do we have time to share?
We absolutely have time to share this because I think this is so, I know what you're going to say. This is so important because there are people out there that they may need help.
Yes. So the next, and Denise, you probably have heard the quote, and I'm sure the viewers have heard it too. You are the average of the 5 people that you spend most time with.
Absolutely.
It's
Yes.
a mic dropping quote. And Jim Rohn, who actually stated that quote, he's a brilliant man, or was a brilliant man. Unfortunately, what he did was he left us hanging. Oh my goodness. Now he gives us this great quote, makes us think, but he doesn't give us several other things to do with it.
Right.
He
Right.
doesn't. How do we assess the people that are surrounding us? How do we identify who's good to have and who isn't? And how do we replace the people who are not with people that are?
How?
And
Okay, how?
this is what I call, and it's a perfect word for you, power team. Create your power team. So the first step is to look at those 5 people you spend the most time with, and then think about, you have to assess them. How many people, when you have said you want to achieve something, have said, you're never going to do that, or are you kidding, or I've tried, or no
Right.
way. They're negative about it. Well, they're not someone who can be a positive influence on you, because the key is to build a circle of influence. So assess those people that have made any type of what can be toxic statements.
Okay.
Those are the people that we either need to eliminate or we need to decrease our time with.
Okay.
And then the next step is to identify who would be good to be on our power team. So Jim Rohn said, how many? 5 people.
Okay.
So rather than 5 people, I have 5 categories. And I do have this in my book. And what I'm so excited about is I'm taking a deeper dive into this, and I'm creating a digital program all about creating those 5 people that are your circle of
Oh, wow.
influence.
Okay.
So that will be out in May.
How exciting.
I know, I'm so excited about it because I get asked about this a lot. So the first one is, the first person or the first type of person is an accountability person. Now I have one, I meet weekly. We meet every Monday morning. We call it Money Mondays. You
Okay.
can meet any day of the week. Now there's a key to this. This person needs to be a go-getter. This person has to have goals too. It has to be a like-minded person.
Okay.
Because if it's somebody who's making excuses, it's not a good influence on you.
Right.
So it has to be, and we've all had those types of people in our life. So it has to be a go-getter. So your accountability. Now, what we do is we actually score ourselves on what we say we are going to do. We actually come up with a score, and we need to have an 85 or better, because when it's 85 or better, we are making progress.
Wow, you're hardcore, MJ.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you don't have to be that hardcore. And there are definitely times where I don't hit that 85.
Right.
So accountability is one. The second one is your play up player. And this goes back to when my son was in high school and he played basketball. And during the summer off season, he would always go to one specific basketball court because there were D1 players there, usually Pitt players. And his mindset was, when I play against Pitt players, I will get stronger. I will improve my skills. I
Yeah.
will be better on the floor. I will be able to see the floor better. So he played up. So your play up player is someone who is a few steps ahead of you.
Okay.
Now think about the organizations that you are a member in. One key to our, anytime we're in a membership, is, are there play up players?
Right.
If there aren't play up players, might not be the right organization for you.
That's such an important statement, because sometimes we think our friends are there and we just get in the habit. It's fun, it's social, but it's not getting us where we need to be.
You hit the
Right.
nail on the head there.
Right.
Exactly. We get comfortable, we get content, and
Mhm.
it isn't a good influence to reach those goals.
Right.
So the third type of person is your mountain guide. And this I used to call this a kick in the butt player. So you can call it a kick in the butt player or a mountain guide. And I got the term mountain guide actually from someone I interviewed. His name's Paul Cohen from Cohen Woodworking. He's in my book. And he called it the mountain guide. This is a person who already reached your goal. So let's talk about climbing the mountain. They climbed that mountain. They have the scars to prove it. They know the trenches to get out of the roadblocks. They also know the excuses that you can use. So they're going to say, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Denise, that's an excuse.
Right.
You know, they're going to give you that kick in the butt. Get back at it. You know,
Mhm.
that's your mountain guide. So they've already tackled it. The fourth one is a mastermind group. Now, this mastermind group, a mastermind group goes all the way back to Napoleon Hill and Andrew
Grow Rich.
Carnegie.
Mhm.
So with Think and Grow Rich,
Right.
if you haven't read that book, you know, audience members, it's a great book. So the mastermind is, think about this, it's a way to multiply your brain power. So you're maximizing your brain power, and say you have 4 other people in your mastermind group, you're maximizing their brain power. What's great about this is you grow through other people growing in their business too. So that was 4. Number 5. So number 5 can be one of 3 different people, 3
Okay.
different types of people. It can be a mentor, it can be a coach, or it can be a consultant. It depends upon what you need. So a mentor is more of an informal relationship without expected outcomes. And we can use SCORE to have a mentor because it's a group of retired professionals.
Yes. Mhm.
Coach, most people have had a coach or they know someone who has worked with a coach. A coach helps you solve your problems. So, and you don't always have expected outcomes with a coach. So it really depends upon what you need. So the third one is a consultant. A consultant is going to help you strategize. They are going to insist on expected outcomes. You're going to have, it's a formal relationship with set meetings and set goals. So benchmarks to get to your goals.
Right. Right.
Because you need to track it. So that one of those would be your 5th one. And going through, one of the reasons why I decided to develop this digital program is I get asked all the time, how do I know what I need, especially with the 5th group? So I created an assessment to help everyone decide, do they need a mentor, do they need a coach, or do they need a consultant? Because I made that mistake.
Right. 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 So much information, MJ. Oh my goodness. So your book is on Amazon. If people want your book, they can go to Amazon and get it. That's where I
Exactly.
got it. So you can go on Amazon and get the book. You have a digital program coming out.
Yes.
You've written 11 books. What you've ziplined, which we ran out of time to talk about that, across, over alligators and Pawtucket with a black bear. What is next for MJ Calloway?
Actually, I have another book that is coming out. So, and it is called Revenue Rescue Audit, and that will be out this summer.
Oh, that's awesome. What? So number 12.
So that will be number 12.
MJ, you're the most positive person I have ever met. I think I just love being around you. And I'm so happy we were able to make this interview work and you could talk to our audience. Any final thoughts?
Absolutely delighted to share with you and with your audience. It's been wonderful. So, and what I can say, if anybody would like to reach out to me, feel free. I believe my contact information will be on this episode. So feel free to reach out to me if you have a question about anything that I have shared. Also on my website, I do have a worksheet on there, an activity for you to develop your own power team. So you can download that and connect with me on my YouTube channel. I share bits all the time, tips all the time, and strategies on how to bounce up.
Oh, that's amazing. And we'll have all the information on here so people could find that. MJ, great. Thank you so much for giving us all this wisdom and your positivity and telling your stories. It has been a joy to have you on. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Denise.
Thank you for watching today's episode of Empowering You. I would like to thank my guest, my friend MJ Calloway, for being on this show and giving so many interesting tidbits about herself, telling stories, and helping you get over negativity, adversity, and being empowered. Thank you for watching and see you next time.